Hello, everyone, and welcome to Garden Gossip, the home and garden show, with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Garden Gossip Show, which today is part of our first Thursday Travel Tulare series with the Sequoia Tourism Council. So Tulare County is in Central California. It's the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And it's also the backyard really is Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon National Park, Sequoia National Forest. So it's a beautiful area, but it's also an incredibly massive agricultural hub. We're talking cheese and dairy and all those delicious things, ice cream, summer's here. But we're also talking about all kinds of crops from peaches and, almonds to, oh my gosh, amazing oranges and berries. We're also talking about flowers too. So one of our favorite places that Nancy and I love to go to when we go to Tulare County, if we do not stop at Woodlake Botanical Garden and chat with Manuel and Olga and take a garden stroll with them, no, that's not allowed. That doesn't occur. It's a must visit. And as you all know, Central California had a crazy winter with a lot of snowfall. And now the snow's melting. So as we all know, Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks and Sequoia National Forest, Giant Sequoia National Monument, please go to their websites before you decide to just drive up there, because there are still road closures with all the debris, especially post fires. So the website to go to is discoverthesequoias.com. That will link you to all of the different communities, all the chambers and visitor centers and all of that, as well as the parks and the forest. So check that site out before you plan your visit, but definitely plan your visit, because apparently things are blooming and there's flowers, there's berries and all kinds of good things happening. So we're so excited to have Manuel and Olga back on the show. Manuel, how are you?
I'm doing really well, especially now that it's, we wanted rain and we got it. And now, as it starts to get warm, we want to start complaining now, not of the water, but of the warm weather. So
sounds good to me.
It's always perfect, but we always find things to minimize how perfect it is.
I know, that's just human nature, but
that's human.
I think the more we go and see flower power, the happier we are. And I know Olga has beautiful gardens that she's created inside Woodlake Botanical Garden, and you'll see there's Olga's garden, and she likes to use all kinds of whimsical garden art too, as I recall. I was like, Olga was here. You can walk through the garden and know where Olga was. So welcome back, Olga. How are you?
Thank you very much for having us. We're all enjoying this nice weather.
It sounds beautiful, and so it's still warm, but not as hot as it would be at this time of year, right? It seems like you've got some nice balance, Olga, for the weather.
Exactly. Everybody is staying outdoors longer, tending to their home gardens, their yards. Everything is just so beautiful. We just finished getting rid of all our California poppies that were in the front yard. They bloom so beautiful. I felt like the sunshine was in my front yard every day. And now that we have removed the poppies, we have some sunflowers that were hiding in between the poppies, and they're a good surprise.
Oh,
that's sweet.
Ooh. Well, I remember that was, and I know the botanical garden has had some shifts of where the garden is on the property, and everyone, Woodlake Botanical Garden is in Woodlake, in the community of Woodlake. It is a city. It's across from a big park, so it's a really good area to go take a walk, but it's also adjacent to the lake, Bravo Lake. They've got good ducks and geese in there and all kinds of good water birds that hang out there. But I know that at one point it stretched all the way around, and then that became a Woodlake Rose Garden. And now, because of some irrigation or piping, watery things, city stuff that we don't understand, we don't. Nancy and I can't, we don't know what to do with pipes, unless it's a giant straw and they give us a margarita, then we know what to do. But with that kind of stuff, we don't know. But so now something had to happen there. So those rose gardens moved. But I heard through the grapevine, because there's a lot of grapevines in your area and in your backyard, Manuel, that you got some trees out of this deal. So that's pretty cool that you got some trees. Did they get to go home?
What happened is that the rains, naturally affected some plants, and other plants really benefited. One of the ones that benefited the most were the larger plants, which are the trees and shrubs. So this year, the trees are more vigorous. They're just healthy. They're green. There's parts of the garden that we haven't had to water, because we get seepage from the lake. But the lawns in that area are perfectly green. And of course, the fruit is bigger than normal because just all the water we got, it was just enough to feed the trees, but not too much to damage the roots. However, we did have annuals. We planted in the fall. We planted about 3,000 or 4,000 plants in the east side where we get a lot of seepage, and all those plants drowned. They died. So now we're having to wait for the soil to. We're waiting for the soil to dry to replant.
Wow.
But anyways, overall, the rains were very, very good. We really can't complain because the flowers, they probably were the rose garden was the most beautiful it has been. The trees they're really showing vigor. And so some of the natives, of course, died also because they're not used to having so much water at their feet. But overall, the rains were good, and the gardens are probably healthier and greener than they have been in years past.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone who had to take the fall, which is sad. But I think California as a whole, we're all bummed about the parks and the forest areas, closures. But Mother Nature wants to restore and heal, and I think it's something we're all going to have to get used to. I mean, Nancy and I have been. We travel full time on our Love Your Parks tour across the country. And, everywhere we went, everyone's like, this is not normally like this time of year. And we're like, I know, like we didn't think we would be in like all this feet of snow. Thank you. And ice. Thank you. Can we go to California? Then friends in California are like, no, you don't want to right now. Like everybody was going through something. And I mean, we're having tornadoes and different things in places that didn't normally get it. So it's just Mother Nature is reclaiming and healing. I like to look at it as she's healing. She knows what she needs. And us humans are going to have to keep doing more of a balancing act of coexistence. And I think that is probably the most favorite thing about Woodlake Botanical Garden is not only do you show what you can grow at your home if you're in the local, and for visitors to know what can grow, to eat, for flowers, that kind of thing. But you have a really good way of getting kids and people to connect with nature, to maybe not be afraid of that. Wouldn't you say that, Manuel? It's sometimes there's a fear of nature, but gardens are a good way in.
Oh, absolutely. Olga works really close with the kids, and so what's been nice is that as the gardens evolve, the kids that are working, of course, it makes more work because the weeds grow faster, also just like the plants. So there's a lot of work. But what's really nice is that, especially this year, as a lot of kids from the past, kids that were working with us 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, come to the gardens. They're amazed. Wow. It's so much more beautiful. It's so nice. And the garden has evolved over the last couple of years. We started doing some things 3 years ago. Now, the payoff is that, those plants and those structures that we put in are really making the garden just, making it go to the next level. So it's very nice.
This is awesome. Olga, for visitors coming in, you both really do. I mean, last time we saw you both, it was very hard to take a walk with either of you without everybody, wanting to be part of that conversation. So we all behaved. I'm kidding. But that's the beauty of it, is that it seems that no matter where anybody comes from, the two of you and then the volunteers at the garden will stop and have these conversations. Do you think that's a big part of what you do, Olga, at the garden is that
Oh,
communication and teaching.
definitely, definitely. Because no matter how busy I am, I always want to make sure that they feel welcomed and somebody conversed with them or showed them or answered their questions. And I just remember going to a place and they were tending to their place and they didn't look up to acknowledge me. So I felt like, should I be here or not?
Yeah.
So I've told the children, you greet the people as they come in and you make them feel welcome. You know, if you're blowing the path, stop blowing dirt in their face, you know.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge that somebody's around and you need to put your equipment aside. And I feel that every age group, no matter if it's a tiny baby, a toddler, new parents, middle-aged people, people our age, or elderly people, they all appreciate that you take the time to converse with them. And they have so much to share with you. It's a give and take. At the garden, it's more like a give and take. And sometimes Manuel tease me and he says, what do you talk so much about? And I always tell him, you'd be surprised. You know, you change a recipe or they ask you, why do your roses grow so beautiful here? And we can't get them to grow in Texas like this. And I tell them, they like the heat that the Central Valley provides them. I said, don't go put a rose in the shade because it will not be the same as a rose in the full sun.
True.
You know,
And I have a sister that says to me, why does every plant have to say full sun? I go, because you better listen to the instructions or it'll die on you.
Yeah, I learned, like in one house that we lived in, I put roses against a corner wall. So there's two walls. And it was hot. I mean, this is in 29 Palms in California. And the roses were, the roses were like, no, get us out. Get us. But they were half shaded. So I thought it would be good, but the walls got so hot. I didn't realize how hot walls get, how much heat they radiate and what they do to plants. So I was like, I learned. Yeah, I learned.
But the more plants you have in your garden, the healthier your garden is going to be. And the cooler, the better your home will be. And that's the thing. You're saying the give and take, Olga, when we went there, I mean, it's every time we go there, it's conversations with the two of you and then also the volunteers and learning. You always learn something in the garden, but you're slowed down. And I think that's something for visitors right now. I want them to know, go to the garden. You know, you want to go see the giant sequoias. They do have some other areas where you can experience the giant sequoias. So still plan your trip to Tulare County. There's all kinds of places, and even downtown Visalia has a sequoia tree. But really, go and find out, because to me, it's mind-blowing what you can grow in the valley. I mean, really going from, sunflowers, like you were talking about, and poppies, to artichokes, to berries, which we need to talk about, all the way up the hill. I should say the little hill of the Sierra Nevadas, and suddenly you have the biggest living organism by volume, the sequoia tree. That's pretty incredible. Manuel, how many plant species do you think? Well, I know on the agricultural and flower side, that's going to be massive besides the native plants. I mean, the biodiversity, the plant diversity of the valley all the way up into the Sierra foothills and up to the top has got to be one of the greatest in the world, really, when you think about it.
Yes, it is. And the weather, it's conducive to be able to grow a lot of things that you normally don't grow. For example, even though we're growing crops that you wouldn't think would grow in this part of California, we grow a lot of tropicals, like guavas, mangoes, papayas, longan, just a lot of these crops, and they grow very healthy. And so, people would ask me in years past, how do you grow one of these trees, like, for example, guava, Well, the weather has actually changed because we used to have to cover the guavas every year. And it's been 6 years since the last time we covered them, and they produce very, very well. In fact, the trees that are inside our hoop house, which is sort of a passive greenhouse, they set less fruit because it's too warm in there through the winter. And outside, they produce a full crop, which is amazing. You would think that the ones in the greenhouse would grow better, but they don't. Sometimes they produce very little fruit because the weather is just too uniform. Whereas outside, they also need chill. But in the gardens, we have, yes. In the gardens, this year, for example, with the cool weather, the cherries produce an abnormal amount of cherries, so the trees are full of cherries. The apricots, the trees that hadn't produced in the past, produced a lot of fruit this year. The peaches set well. The plums that normally, some varieties that like pluots and plum cups that don't normally set a lot of fruit this year. So in the gardens, we have over 200 varieties of stone fruit. And as they become ripe, the public is encouraged to taste the fruit there in the gardens. The only thing we don't allow is for people to take fruit out so that more people can taste in the garden.
Right.
Yeah. But, we do have all the gardens. And then, of course, we have the vegetables that are there for exhibition. So we have a lot of vegetables that are integrated with the other gardens. And also we have vegetable patches where we put patches of cold crops or patches of tomato varieties and so on. So there's a lot of things to look at, and there's a lot of things to taste.
I wanted to go because you have bananas, and I thought that was like, what?
Yes,
that was one of the things that blew my mind when the very first visit years ago. And we pets it as we travel the country. So we're in all these gardens across the country, which is fascinating.
Amazing.
To just, to see. I think everybody wants Japanese maples. That seems to be like a very popular plant in a lot of areas. And it is beautiful. But banana trees are friends out in Peachtree City outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So that area has some weird and wacky weather. It could be sunshiny hot all the way to freezing, to rain, till mini tornadoes. I mean, we've been through some interesting weather out there, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But one night we're sleeping, we hear these bang, 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 and we're like, what the heck, man? I thought this was a safe neighborhood. What's going on? Well, the banana trees, because they have banana trees, exploded from the frost. If they exploded from all the water, they literally exploded. And they said that had happened to them like maybe 2 or 3 years, two or three times over the last 20, 30 years kind of thing. It happens when it gets that real, snap. Have you ever had that happen? I couldn't imagine it, but the way the weather is, I was just curious to see if you've had a banana tree explode on you.
Yeah, in the last decade, of course, it really hasn't frozen like it did in 1990 when it dropped to the teens. But we rarely get into the teens. And normally we would have, 30 days of temperatures below 32. But recently we haven't had any days below 32.
Oh, wow.
So, so bananas have never exploded on us. But, we understand why they would explode because they have so much water in the trunks. And, they're very, very heavy, too, when you cut them. So they would naturally, what happens is the water expands inside those trunks. There's no place to go but to rupture. And so that makes sense that they would explode. Yeah.
Well, I know because people think I'm nuts. I tell people, we heard banana trees like explode. They're like, no, I'm like, yeah. It happened.
Yes,
it happened. That's crazy.
Really weird.
So for visitors coming from out of state that are just, exploring the area and wanting to see sequoia trees and go up and do nature, I really want to encourage them to go to the garden. So, from each of you, let's talk about one highlight for right now, summer. We're easing into summer. Depending on where you live, everybody, it's different. But let's start with you, Olga. What is something you want someone from out of town to experience? And then let's look at somebody from in town that you want to experience, someone from California to experience in the garden. And I'll go to you, Manuel, in the same question.
It's a Mediterranean climate to begin with, right? So we can actually grow dates, and people are in awe about that. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can grow we have these two beautiful date trees, and they're the best date. It's Majul. But through the years, Manuel has been able to prune it and harvest, but now the date trees, or there's two of them, they're out of his reach. So now the raccoons get to have them.
Oh,
So we have wildlife that thrives on what we have out here. The
that's cool.
Pakistani mulberry drops its berries, and there's evidence that the wildlife has been through there. They come out when we're not there. They come in the evening where it's peaceful and no people.
Yeah. Well,
And
they need to have dinner.
I feel like we are feeding not just the tourists that come through, but we're also feeding the wildlife, and that's a very, very good feeling.
Yeah, it's important because if you don't feel the wild, if this is a whole circle. If you look at the earth, it's a circle, it's a sphere, and everything's connected to everything else. And when you start removing parts, it doesn't work. So it's important that we don't forget about our wildlife and our birds and our reptiles. They all need to be there, even insects, even though you don't like them sometimes in your house. They need to be there because they pollinate. They help pollinate the flowers, and we really need everybody to be there. It's not up to us to say, oh, let's eradicate this whole sphere of beings. Let's get rid of, for example, all the wolves because people are scared of wolves. Let's just get rid of them. No, that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Is that something you teach with the kids that garden with you? Is the web of life, and teach them, about the importance of spiders and butterflies and birds, that kind of thing?
Yes, because they need to know that good bugs eat the bad bugs. And so you don't want to off-balance things. And they could see a tarantula hawk spider flying around, and they start screaming and saying, oh, it's going to bite me, it's going to bite me. I said, don't swing your hands. It's not going to bother you. It's going to go find nectar, and it's going to feed. And but if you start swinging your hands and you become a threat, just pretend they're not around. And they don't even see you. They're busy collecting their nectar or their pollen or moving around and just doing, like the robins that come through there after the rains. Oh my gosh, I've never seen so many robins just eating worms the whole time.
Yeah.
And when Manuel turns up the ground, there comes the birds, and they're going to eat anything that came up. I go, wow, Manuel, they're very intelligent. They wait till you dig it up.
Yeah, they're not going to dig it up unless they have to.
Yeah.
They're all sitting there like in the trees. Manuel, come on.
Yes.
Manuel, for you, what do you want someone from out of town to experience in the garden?
Well, what people come and they tell us most often is that there's a serene feeling that they get when they're in the gardens, because just the numbers of birds, the birds are happy, they're singing. We do not use pesticides. We rarely use a herbicide, only when to spot treated locations. But our mission is to protect all the wildlife, whether they be bugs that we normally appreciate or we don't. People like bees, but they're afraid of wasps. And so the garden is actually an island, and we want people to know that the garden is actually open only 3 days, which is Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And often people ask, why are the gardens closed the other 4 days? Well, over the years, the numbers of species some of the species have disappeared because, as we get more traffic walking around the lake and going through the gardens, for example, quail are no longer there, pheasant are no longer there. The fox still visit us, there's possums there's raccoons, all these animals that come out at dusk, that feed on all the things that fall on the ground. Often people complain about, the fruits falling on the ground is not doing any good. Well, yes, it does. Of course, we're giving priority to people to taste all the fruit that's there. but also it's really providing a food source for the wildlife that exists in the garden. And as they dry, they even are feeding on that fruit. We know they are because we look at their fecal piles and we can see the grape seeds. We see the cherry seeds this is dry fruit. Even grapes that are turned to raisins, they eat them. And then, like right now, we see them eating mulberries because we know that the fox and we know that the raccoons and others are eating the mulberries because when they drop their feces, you can see the seeds. And so we're really happy to see that, and so the complement, for example, we have every single bad bug that you can imagine in agriculture and all our plants there. But we also have a corresponding population of all the beneficials that you would not even expect to be there, whether they be really small wasp or flies or other insects, ground beetles that eat the bugs that walk on the ground. Everything is there. So the Woodlake Botanical Garden is actually a source of natural biology that doesn't exist in many locations, and I can guarantee that, from the west side of the valley to the east side, there's very few places like the garden that have so many species of insects as well as birds and everything else that's there. And so, I would, often the farmers, I work with farmers almost all my life, and we always complain about things. And so, but we never have thought about creating large islands big enough that would supply sufficient land and food and habitat for all those things that need to be here. And so when you go to the west side and you see tens of thousands of acres of whatever, tomatoes and cotton and wheat, those monocultures are, they're great to make money and great for efficiency and production. But in terms of longevity and for the sustainability of this area, we need everything. Whether we consider it bad or good, yes, it's for the better. And so the one thing I would like people to know is that, there are not many places that have the diversity that we have there. It's taken years to build it up. And we think now, for example, we'll get a bug. For example, in citrus, we'll get cottony cushion scale. And it looks so bad because they attack the entire tree and it's sticky and cottony in one season. But the next season, it'll be clean. Because we get Bedelia beetles, we get other insects that feed on those things and clean them up. Last year we had some citrus trees that had mealybugs. Well, we didn't see many mealybug destroyers and other beneficials, but guess what? Those trees that had it last year are now clean. So it rotates, so we're always going to have those bad bugs there. But to have the good bugs, you have to have their food source, which is the bad bugs.
Right.
And
right.
So
Well, I think
it's just one of those things that we try to educate the kids and the public about. That, for example, people are saying, well, why use this chemical to kill the aphids on the roses? Well, it's actually a long process because we allow the weeds, the grasses to grow in the winter. Aphids go to the grasses, and soon to follow are the beneficials like ladybird beetles, syrphid flies, these parasitic wasps that attack them. And then when the roses start to emerge and set buds, immediately they get rose aphids, but a different species. But already there's a huge population of the beneficials that just jump on them and clean them up. So people just have to be patient. Be patient with nature, because it'll take care of it. It does always. It always does.
I think that's the beauty about going to the garden. Like you say, people slow down, and that's the point is to be able to slow down. And that's the lesson of gardens is patience. And, I love gardens because to me, it's like walk the garden every morning, see what's going on. Then you want to see how it's doing midday. Then you want to see how it's doing at the end of the day. I want to see what's going on. Like I talk to the plants. I know I'm weird, but it's exciting to see the little bits of growth, or maybe, hey, somebody needs water over here or whatever you can do. But you also get to know, like when you go to a place like, Woodlake Botanical Garden, like you'll start to know. So if you love bird watching, definitely go.
Oh,
this is
awesome.
a beautiful place.
Awesome.
But you'll start to know where the birds nest, and I don't know. The gardens get you reconnected to nature, and it's just a beautiful place to go for that.
Yes, we have, for example, a Pakistani mulberry tree that's in full fruiting right now. And do you know that we have a group, I don't know, a flock of grackles and a number of other species like orioles that put in several nests just to feed on that tree. So when they're young, right now we can see the young. They're all feeding on the berries.
Cool.
And it's a nice source for them. So if you look at our bamboo areas, there may be 10 nests of grackles there. In the same place, there might be like 5 or 6 oriole nests and one bush. Of course, these are big bamboo than a small bamboo. But they come to the garden because there's something there that they like a whole bunch. And in this case, the grackles are eating they're mating. They make the nest, they mate, and then as the fruit is coming on, that's when their babies start emerging. And right now, they're showing their babies the fruit, and they're feeding them fruit. So it's really nice.
No.
When we lived in Yuma, they had a whitefly invasion. Like they talked about it forever. Like this whitefly that's just covered, like it was somebody called them all up and said, "Hey, come on over," and they just invaded all the crops, and it's because of the
they had to balance it
monoculture.
out.
They learned to balance it out. You can't just have monoculture. It doesn't work that well.
Well, I don't think there's like mass monoculture because it's so diverse. I think, isn't it 200 to 300 crops that are grown in the valley? Is it 200 to 300?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of the diversity in the east side is extremely high. Yeah, because you have if you think about one crop, just like citrus, where there are not dozens but hundreds of varieties of citrus that actually, besides the commercial varieties, there's many citrus that are planted. When you think about stone fruit, there are hundreds of varieties of stone fruit that are out there. There's some predominant varieties, of course, because of marketing. But there's all kinds of fruit that's out there, and vegetables and plants. Even the plants that are in the neighborhood, in people's home gardens, they have a good impact on what happens in the area. So that diversity helps a whole bunch.
How many plants do you think you have in the garden? Because I mean, it's a decent walk once you walk in through the entryway. I mean, that you can, if you want to walk and have a beautiful walk every day, this is a good place to do it, right? And for health reasons, I mean, with beauty and there's a lake,
Yes, the entire garden is 1 mile long. The lake that is adjacent to the garden is 3.5 miles long to go around. So yes, there's plenty to walk there. And, I think that's what people like about it, that even when we have a lot of people, they spread out in the garden, so it's not so close, because even though it's just 14 acres, it's a long 14 acres.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so do you think you've got vegetables, flowers, berries, fruits, trees.
Yeah, we have, for example,
grasses.
Exactly. Yeah, so we have, Olga can tell you that we have 130 varieties of roses. We used to have over 200 varieties of roses before, yes. But we have about, and of course we had about close to 4,000 roses. Now we probably have close to 2,000 only. But just the numbers of roses, like the stone fruit, like I mentioned earlier, we have about probably close to 200 varieties of stone fruit. We have 80 varieties of citrus. We have, we try to plant all the vegetables at one point or another. We have a lot of annual flowers that we put in. So, it's a common man's garden. It's not like anything really, most botanical gardens have really exotic things to show you what you can plant from other zones or other parts of the world. Our garden it's a common garden for, just people,
it's like a demonstration garden. Yeah. So if you live there and I think for visitors who want to know what grows in the area that they're visiting, it's a really good thing.
That's awesome.
Olga, I mean, I know you talk to the people and the kids that you're teaching and they're volunteering. Do you talk to the plants, because you've got so much diversity going there, saying, come on, everyone's going to get along now. So-and-so's going to stay on this side because they want wet feet. The roses are going to go over here. Don't. You guys have to talk to all the plants so everybody's cozy. So, and it, because that's the thing with a garden is about, you want the diversity, but you have to put them in the right place so they get along.
Oh, yes. I want to tell you a story. When I go prune the roses, instead of bending down and getting my back tired, I'll just sit in between four roses and I'll deadhead and clean and pull weeds at the same time and just pivot around. And then you see a little toad over here that distracts you, or a hummingbird, and you're just in touch with nature, and you just in another realm, just a calm, soothing environment that you don't get to have unless your hands are in the soil and your mind is just quiet.
So next time we see you, and I want to ask this for anybody coming in, because there's so many of us who love gardening, and I mean, there's something about you've got to get your hands in the soil, being barefoot in the soil. There's all of that. It's grounding. It's good for our bodies. And June, everybody, and this show is airing on June 1st. It kicks off National the Great Outdoors Month. And so what better way than to start gardening, right? So if somebody wants to volunteer and come play in the garden, and I know there's work involved, but I still think it's play.
It's play.
Would you let them? Would you let people come and help in the garden? Like next time Nancy and I come see you, can we do some work?
Yes, we always welcome volunteers, and we always let them know that we have all the tools. You don't have to bring any tools. We even have gloves for you. And all you got to do is bring your long sleeves, come in your long pants, and wear a hat, and bring your bottled water, and just take your time. If you're up in age, don't be bending down and deadheading. Pick the tall roses. Stay upright. There's all kinds of work to be done. You can deadhead roses, or you can pull weeds, or you can other things like raking, just anything that you can physically do. We don't require anybody to do something they can no longer do. And to me, it's helping them. They're helping us, but it's also beneficial for them.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, next time we come through, I'm coming to work. And Manuel, I don't know if you're cool with this, but apparently I'm really good at digging holes. So if you need anybody dug, that's I must have been a grave digger in my previous life or something.
Seriously, when we had our house in 29 Palms, we were planting all these plants. I'd say to Lisa, okay, we have like this plant, and it's in a pot, like a 2-quart thing, like dig a hole, and we need a little more room than where the plant is now, so it can feel free to grow, right? I come out and it was like a ditch. Like, what the heck?
I don't know. I enjoy it.
It's like, she's like
meditative. I like being outside working.
She's like, not a 4-foot hole. I'm like looking for 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And then it's like 4 feet. I'm like, oh, righty good.
I'm just saying, if you need holes to be dug, I'm your person. I do. I was a grave digger. I really do believe so, like way back in my previous life. I don't know. But I think it just feels good to be outside and working.
Yeah.
Because, the wildlife takes time to relax when it's too hot. They go and have their siesta in the, in the midday, and they know, and it's like, but and when they're working, you're working, everybody's kind of they're working for their food. And that's the cool thing. And so you're helping, and it's like, everybody's in this unison thing. It's really cool. And I think during COVID, a lot of people started to get lonely, being trapped inside a house and not being out in nature. And more people are working from home. This is a way to get outside and not feel so alone.
Go garden.
And plants don't talk back. They're far kinder. They're like animals, like dogs are far nicer sometimes. So I'm just saying it's a good thing. Manuel, berry tasting, what's going on with that? Because normally it's earlier. You have this event every year. But this is it.
Yes.
Everybody, it's June 10th. You have an event?
Yes, we do. Normally, we have that event Memorial Weekend, which is this week. But this year, because of the cool weather and the rains, everything just got postponed. We had a late bloom, and then we haven't had real hot weather. So there's a lag period of about 2 to 3 weeks on many of the crops. Blueberries are behind too. For example, our blueberries are just beginning to turn color. Normally, they're almost fully ripe right now. So we wouldn't have had any local berries had we had the event this weekend. So June 10th is the day that we decided to have that event. And it's amazing how people with our Facebook page, we put that out and we got 30,000. We reached 30,000 people, and it's
Awesome.
amazing how people are excited about that. We've never made contact with that many people. So, we're hoping that we'll have enough fruit for those that do come. Because usually we'll get, a large crowd for us would be like 1,200, 1,400 people.
Wow,
Sometimes
that's
a little
lot.
smaller. But
That is a lot.
The reach of the Facebook page has really increased. And we see a lot of people just anxious, to bring their kids to taste the berries. So this year, like always, we'll have a collection of raspberries, of raspberry varieties, a collection of strawberries, a collection of blackberries, a collection of blueberries, and then anything else that might be ripening there in the gardens. But we bring in local berries from local growers, and then also Driscoll is a big donor of fruit because they have really good, they have a real good breeding program and have some of the best of all these fruits. So they'll bring a big portion of the fruit, and we will set it up so that people can taste them. But it's a real good family event. We have most of the places where they'll be getting their fruit will be shaded, or we'll have tents, and it's spread over probably 3/4 of a mile. So we try not to crowd everybody in one location. But it is the weather is supposed to be very likely. I did look at the 10-day forecast. It looks like it'll be around 90 or the low 90s, which is warm, but not as hot as it's been some Mays. We've actually had events with 105 degrees, and that's really hard on people, especially the elderly and children. But we right now the weather forecast is so that it is gonna be warm, but we'll have water there for people, and we look forward to seeing, especially the kids, because the smiles and the expressions that they show when they're feeding on that fruit, because they're not going to get it any better than they're going to get it here.
Yeah.
I'm
sure.
okay. I'm in, man. It's just just thinking of fresh berries, like when it tastes really good, there's
so
nothing
cool.
like it, right? And fresh fruit. I remember last time we saw you got that beautiful bag of oranges. Oh man, mimosas. Here we went. It was delicious, but also for on the road. It keeps oranges and getting something fresh. Just really, really fresh is a
Makes
big deal.
all the difference.
It
really
and we
does.
travel the country, and I tell people, there are food deserts in our country where people are not getting food that is truly fresh, and that makes all the difference in the world to getting your kids excited about eating fruits and vegetables. They get excited if they're actually being part of a place like Woodlake Botanical Garden or your backyard, if they're in it. But when it's fresh, it tastes so much better. Nobody wants to eat a can of green beans. Ew. Nobody wants canned beets. Ew.
Yeah.
Nobody wants canned
Careful.
peas. No. We want it freshly picked, and I think that's this whole other thing for people going to Tulare County is to go to the gardens. There's other places like Woodlake, not Woodlake, Ivanhoe. There's Farmer Bob's where you can see how the citrus are done, and you can go to farm stands, farmers markets. It's something. Take your kids
I would
to,
say, Yeah, we will have some information on some of the local farms, but there are many fruit stands in Tulare County, and so people just come to visit. They can just go some of the not the highways, but of course the main thoroughways, and there's fruit stands everywhere. So at this time of the year there'll be nectarines, peaches, plums, apricots, citrus. There's just so many things that are fresh. And, it's not like when I say fresh, I'm not talking about cool. I'm talking about just harvested and
Yeah.
crispy and delicious. Yes,
Mm.
there's a big difference. If you go to the store and you buy a nectarine that's been sitting in cold storage in Chile for 3 months, and then you try
Exactly.
one of these fruits here, it's a total different world of taste. You
Yeah.
know? So, yeah. So
Yeah.
when they come, we encourage people to not only visit us, but also visit the local fruit stands that are out throughout Tulare and Fresno counties.
Mm. And when you have this fruit that's freshly picked like that, when things are in a cooler for too long, like I can tell you what happens to avocados by it gets this like stop refrigerating avocados. I've got a thing against it because it becomes this mealy kind of grainy
That's not right.
kind of texture that is not, it's not normal. And they do
It's
it
not right.
to apples, where all of a sudden you bite into the apple and it's like, what happened? What happened to the crisp? It looked crisp. It's, you bought, no, it's just not the same. I did want to ask you though, because of the tropical side of things that you're able to grow, have you ever done dragon fruit? Have you ever tried
We've
growing?
tried before, and we just got gifted a couple of plants that we're going to try again.
Cool.
The dragon fruit, one of the problems
Difficult.
with it is that even though it's a plant that loves heat, it doesn't love too much heat, and and it doesn't like too much cold. So the winter's too cold, and the summer is too hot. And so for
It's
the
touchy.
plants for example, San Diego is warm, but not as hot as the Central
Has that
Valley. So
cool
they can
ocean
grow
breeze.
dragon fruit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vista. I
And
remember an
so
exotic
Touchy.
fruit guy in Vista, California. The
Yeah,
exotic fruit
but
guy. Remember
it's
that?
a touchy
Yeah.
plant. It's very
Yeah.
finicky, and I don't like this, and I don't want
It's
that.
delicious though. It
yes,
is.
I
It's
do have a
delicious.
friend in San Diego who's a farm advisor for the University of California, and he has been working on dragon fruit for many years. And there are successful farmers in the San Diego area. If somebody is thinking about visiting a place with the dragon fruit, there are fields of it.
Ooh, what about your artichokes? Because last time we were there, you guys, and there's some things absolutely gorgeous. I think artichokes are one of the most beautiful plants. Are they related to thistles? They are thistle, right?
Yeah, they are a thistle. Yes, they are a thistle. And right now, of course,
dinosaurs.
We don't harvest the artichokes because we want the children to see the artichokes on the plants. But now is the bloom period, so they're starting to bloom, and they are absolutely magnificent. They're beautiful.
Man.
Purple.
I think they're dinosaurs. They were plants there when they because they just look like they were there when dinosaurs were here.
They were underwater too. Everything was underwater.
Just somehow, when I look at them, I'm like, dude, you were there when the Tyrannosaurus Rex was hungry.
Oh, Olga, do you do any plants that are like cactus and things like that people can learn how to eat? Like I learned how to cook the other day, finally, after many really stupid tries.
Anything.
No, I did good. I learned how to make cook chamayo. I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Chamayo, chamayo. It's like a squash, a green squash. And I didn't know. Well, I tried to boil it before, and I don't know what I did, but it was not good. But then I grilled the other ones.
You know what they're talking about, right, Olga?
Chamayo?
Yes, the one that they, how do we pronounce it?
It's like a pear. It's like a green pear.
Yes.
It's a vegetable.
It's a chamayo, and it's a chamayo, and it's
like and so it's chamoy. That's it. See, you got it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you grow things
I've
like
never.
that?
I think we tried one time. I think
it's not easy.
No. Well, but it is delicious if it's done well, but it takes time. But
the one plant that we do have is the cactus. I thought you were going to tell me you tried nopales.
Yeah.
Nopales. Oh, yummy.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you do that? Do you do that at all?
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do.
We have them at the garden. Yeah.
So what is
I thought that's what you were experiencing.
You were thinking of chayote.
Oh, chayote.
Chayote, yes.
Oh, now I'm realizing that I have had two different plants going the whole time. Yeah, chayote is not the same as what's Chimayo is a place in New Mexico.
Oh,
Chayote.
not
No,
Tamayo, are you?
Yeah, no, I see. I didn't know how to say Chimayo either. Chimayo is up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, north of Santa Fe. Yeah, it's a chayote. You've got it right. See, this is why we need Manuel and Olga. I don't know what I'm talking. It's chayote. That's it. It's But I didn't know what to do with it before. I thought I had to peel it. No, you don't. It's really good. So I've never. Yeah, that was my new thing. Chayote.
Yeah, people use the I want to call it the vegetable. They use it in soups, like chicken soup or beef soup, and it's really good tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just cut it in fours, or it's got a good taste to it.
I thought I did okay. I'm still learning. I'm always learning. But do something new. Now Nepalese. So doing the cactus, because that's a whole thing. People look at me like it's you can't eat cactus, and you can. I don't know if I know what I'm doing with it, but I've had it and it's delicious. Like even on tacos and stuff, I've had Nepalese. But what is it like in regards to the cactus blooms? Because I'm seeing people post cactus blooms all over the place, and I'm going. I mean, even Louisiana has yucca plants and they're blooming, and I'm going, what's going on? That's weird. But apparently somebody planted. I don't know if it's native. I don't know, but there's like this legend of the yucca or the yucca plant in Louisiana. That's like a myth that somebody planted it to let somebody know that they were there, and it could have to do with pirates back in the day. I don't know, but there's like these crazy stories of this beautiful plant. And you guys are in the foothills, so you do get the cactus naturally. But everyone has different bloom times. Like now is the time where it's certain, like I think we were talking about this before, Manuel. The night blooming cereus would happen around this time, but everyone's different. When does your cactus bloom in your area, or what do you think is going to happen this year? I should say, or has it happened?
Our cactus bloom. It depends on our cactus. We have just a few species, but there are some that are really large and beautiful. 2 years ago, I posted that this one particular variety that has large white blooms. It's a beautiful flower that it only blooms over one night, and I told them this is the date that we think it's going to bloom. And so I said, yeah, this is going to bloom because I can tell it's going to open tomorrow. And it was really funny because the next day I went to the gardens and I seen 40 people in the garden, and I said to myself, I wonder what's going on over there.
Yeah.
People came from all over. They were probably, I don't know, these people from everywhere came to see those darn things bloom. It was really funny.
Oh, wow.
I never imagined people would come. And some people came pretty good distances to see those flowers. But there's one cactus, and the name of the variety is not on the tip of my tongue, but it's just beautiful. Huge flowers. And the bumblebees and the carpenter bees love them. But yeah, and so it was amazing. A lot of people were interested in them.
But that's what I was saying. It's so amazing what you grow and what's native too, and then all of a sudden you go up the hill and next thing you know, you're in a giant sequoia forest. It's absolutely mind-blowing, the diversity that you have.
And you
all
see
the
all the
oak
ferns.
trees. Oh, I love the ferns.
All the ferns under the sequoias, and you how are they placed so perfectly?
Well,
it's just, and then the smell, the fragrance.
And then you've got all the oak trees. I love oak trees. I think we've had a situation in California too about protecting the live oaks, right? Do you think this weather helped with the oak trees getting stronger? But I know they've had some maybe bug issues. I don't know what it was in what there's different areas that have had the issues. So I don't know if that's been in your area in the Central Valley, but the oak trees, I don't know, there's something special about them. They're so motherly.
There's been a thing called the sudden oak syndrome, and it's a disease that attacks oak trees, and there's some really strong regulations on the, for example, all the nurseries like Monroe here, they test all their plants for that sudden oak syndrome because it's real deadly to oaks. And
Wow.
so, one year, for example, the nursery was quarantined, and I was thinking, man, they might go out of business because they weren't able to move, to certain parts of the country. They were not able to move any of their plants because they found one container that had the disease.
Gosh.
But that's where it goes. But overall, this year, the oak trees, because we have a number of species of oak trees, the trees up in the foothills, they've been in a probably 30-year drought where they really haven't had any rain, and so this year they took a big drink, and I'm sure that they're storing all that water because they finally look healthy. We had, to me, when you look at the foothills, when you first start climbing at the very beginning, the trees are very small. They're dwarfed. They're like bonsais because they don't grow very much. But then as you get into areas where you like the valley oaks and you have water going through there, the trees are huge. They're big. They're like the valley oaks. So there's just a lot of species. But yeah, the weather actually was very, very good for the oaks this year.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. And what are some of the other trees people can see in the garden? Because I know shade is a big deal that you want in California for sure with the sunshine. But what are some of the other trees that people can experience?
Well, we have a collection of sycamore species, and then poplars, which are like the cottonwoods, different species of cottonwoods. And those are monstrous trees. We have trees that are about 15 years old, but they're probably well over 100 feet tall, and the trunks are really wide, but they grow real fast. We put them in areas where we had, because of the lake, we have areas where there's seepage, and we had like a swamp back over there. So we talked to some experts and decided on the species to plant it, and the cottonwoods are perfect because they suck up all the water. Right now, for example, the lawns are really beautiful underneath the trees, but the trees, any excess water, they take it up and use it. And so, but there's other species too. We have just a little bit of everything out there. But what we plan to do, I mentioned earlier, we're going to try to finish the eastern garden, the coniferous forest. And that right there, we plan to plant all the species that occur in the Sierras. So there'll probably be over a dozen species of conifers that we plant on the far east end. We've already started planting a few, and we hope by this fall to be able to plant a full complement of those trees back there, as well as some of the native plants that grow with them.
As I recall, you have some olive trees and walnut trees, or am I wrong about the walnut?
Yes.
Maybe.
We have walnut trees, several varieties of walnuts. We had to have several olive trees, but many of them were taken. It's one of those things in gardens and people. Yeah, so right now all that's left of our little baby orchard is one tree. People like olives.
Oh, apparently, but do they know they have to prepare them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
You can't just eat them.
Yeah, isn't that preparing?
You have to soak them in lye water and all sorts of weird stuff. You do.
Yeah.
Or squeeze
them
them
in the poison, and they'll
it'll
remove all the other poison.
Right. I know. Or make oil. Squeeze them for oil. Like I want the oil.
So that's
good.
That's the area Manuel's been talking about. That's the area we call our natural habitat area because it has those sycamores and those poplars and the walnut trees.
Oak trees.
And and the oak trees. And this year, for some reason, we got baby oak trees being born throughout the garden. And I just say, just let them live.
Mama Nature does what she needs to do because she knows better what she needs than we do. And we're always like trying to make nature do what we want.
I love that. And
then we can't. We really can't
exciting.
make nature do what we want.
I think it's
exciting.
I'm excited to hear about the oak trees because it's like you never know what an acorn can become. The legend of the acorn is so it's special. So before you go, Olga, I hear that you're selling fireworks. And no, you will not explode the garden. That's the first thing. But you've got a fundraiser going on before the 4th of July, right? Through June.
Yes.
Okay. So how do people get fireworks from you?
we set up a booth in the city of Woodlake, and I think the first day we start selling is the second and
July
the
1
third and the fourth.
Okay.
It's the first through the fourth.
Oh, of 4th of July
July 1
weekend.
through 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So and when you get your fireworks, do not take them into the garden. You've got to take them and be
No.
careful with them. I
And
know.
if people are coming to the berry tasting day,
Uh-huh.
which is June 10th from 8 to noon, I suggest that if they're going to bring their elderly folks, as we get older, our hair sort of thins out at the top, put a hat on them or a cap, because it gets warm out there, and I notice they start to get a little bit red faced,
Yeah.
I go, oh, and just
Yeah.
like the infants, put a
Yeah.
hat on them.
Holland, we call that wonky donkey.
Yeah. Wonky
It's
donkey.
a wonky
You
donkey
start
moment.
walking weird. Yeah. Well, it's true. And is that what's going on with my forehead? Like
Yeah,
somehow,
you
like
got the
now
wonky donkey.
I got the wonky donkey hair. It's going away. Somehow it's going. It's true. It's like it is. It's going away. It's such a joy to have you both back on the show. This has to be our annual thing. We need to do this every spring. Have you guys on our show to talk about the garden, give a garden update. And before you go, Manuel, it's open every day, right? Until what time of year for people?
No, this time of the year we're open only 3 days, which is Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, from
Okay.
9 a.m. to till 3 p.m. However, if we're working on the west side of our garden, we allow people to come in while we're there, and then of course they have to leave when we leave. But people have, especially people, tourists that come and they come from far. If they call us and we happen to be near the entrance, we let people in. So.
Oh, that's really nice. And they may put you to work,
That's
which is
sweet.
good. But
Oh
everyone,
yes, might put them.
yeah, you never know. But you'll get fed in that garden. It's delicious. But everyone,
yes.
if you go to Woodlake Botanical Garden on Facebook, right? That's the best way
Yeah.
for everyone to keep up.
Yeah.
Manuel's got the Facebook thing going. He's gonna have to give us all lessons. He's working it, man. So keep up with him there. And again, planning your trip to California Sequoia Country. There are things open, some things closed, like Crystal Cave. That was, they were working on that anyway because of the fires, and it's been going to be closed for the rest of this year. But let's all stay positive on everything. There are still trees you can experience in nature.
There's so much to do.
There really is. Like up in Three Rivers, our friend Christy Wood, she, takes people out on horseback rides in the foothills, which is beautiful right now. The rivers are flowing. It's a beautiful, beautiful time of the year to go to Tulare County. And, when things aren't always open the same way, this is a time to explore all these other hidden gems that make up this region. And there's so many communities. The communities all know about food. Listen, they know how to grow it. They know how to serve it. I'm serious. If you want to have good food, go to Tulare County. You will not be disappointed. I don't care what town you go to. There's something delicious. There's public art. There's history. There's all those roadside farmers market stands, those farmer stands. I'm telling you, you haven't had a plum until you've eaten a plum in Tulare County in season. When do you think that's going to happen? Like when you can just bite into a plum. Oh my gosh, to get a good plum is like the most special thing on planet Earth. Like it really
the first
is.
one that ripens, the first one that ripens in the garden is Santa Rosa, and it is one of the most fragrant. And it's a Santa Rosa is like I don't know what they call those candies. They're super sweet at the blossom end, and as you go down, they get sour. And so
I love
you talk about waking up the taste buds. You wake up. It first the fragrance wakes you up, and it's so delicious. It's sweet, and it turns sweet and sour. Then finally, the bottom part of the plum is a little bit sour, and man, all those flavors, they do wake up all your senses. Your first are beautiful. Your sight, your palate. It's something that especially kids will not forget, because I know they love that sweet and sour.
Yeah, we love those sweet and sour things.
That usually happens.
Awesome.
That usually happens sometime in June. There's the
Everyone,
Santa
it's
Rosa. But after
time.
that, we have varieties that ripen. And of course, in the county, there's plums from normally from May till August or September.
Ooh,
So
Wow.
really?
there's a lot of different fruit. Yes.
So
Mm.
everyone, okay, I'm serious. The plums there are incredible. I mean, the stone fruit, the
Mhm.
citrus, all of it is incredible, and you can get it that was harvested that day. That is amazing. So discoverthesequoias.com is the website for the area to plan your trip. We are here every first Thursday on bigblendradio.com talking about Tulare County, everything from museums to festivals and events to the parks, the forest. We'll be talking about lakes, I believe, next month. So that makes sense, doesn't it? A lot of water is happening in California, and you can actually
Yes.
really go out and have fun, go
Mhm.
fishing, go floating, all that good stuff. So thank you both for joining us. It's a true pleasure, Manuel and Olga.
It was our pleasure.
Thank
It's
you.
good to connect again. Awesome.
We'll see you soon. And Olga, we're coming to have oranges with you next time and go to work,
Mhm.
okay?
I just want to make a little correction.
Oh,
They're forbidding people to go into the rivers.
Oh yeah, the rivers is not a good idea. The lakes, the lakes, there's
Yeah.
certain lake things. Yeah, the rivers right now are flowing. You do not want to jump in. You'll be
No,
swept
Oh,
to
they're
swept to the
actually
ocean. It's dangerous.
yeah, they're close to the public.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
rivers are
Okay.
dangerous because of the snow melt and incredible snow melt. But the lake areas like Lake Success, places like that, Kauai Lake, those are open. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can get permits if you need one and things like that. But you're absolutely right. Be careful about rivers, even in
Yes.
hiking around in the parks. What you
You
think
could end
is
up in New York.
you no, you'll end up in Hawaii.
It's like,
I'm
hello,
just
I'm just going to take you here. Bye-bye.
No, it's not funny. And that water is cold. I remember
Yeah, it
being
Yes.
there
is.
one spring doing a hike, and then it got really, really hot. We were hiking all through the granite and marble. I don't know. I'm going to get every word and name wrong. Tacopa,
Mm.
I think it was that trail up to a waterfall. And we got back down the bottom, and I'm like, oh man, I'm taking my hiking boots off, putting my feet in that water. You want to talk about a
Uh-huh.
wake up call? Holy cow.
Mhm.
No, 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 and no. It's cold. That
Exactly.
when they talk about
Uh-huh.
snowpack, they're talking about frozen ice that's melting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that doesn't need yeah, if you want to, no. Don't do it. There it is. Don't go in there. It's cold. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you guys. You take care. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Big Blend Radio.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.